Russia is on the march. Troops are advancing with relentless force, aiming to push Ukrainian forces out of western Russia's Kursk region before President-elect Donald Trump takes office in January next year. Here's the latest updates from the battlefield.
Russia is marching forward in Ukraine. Its tanks are rolling into Ukrainian territory. Its artillery pounding the frontline defenses, making way for the army to advance. Russian forces are mounting a massive offensive across multiple fronts, pushing Ukrainian defenders to their limits. 3 Ukrainian brigades hold the line in Kursk, a region they wrestled from Russian control in August. But they face overwhelming odds. Outgunned and outnumbered, Ukraine's forces trained to withstand Russia's intensified attacks. Ukrainian Defense Ministry released these images showing destruction of Russian tanks and armored vehicles. President Zelensky says his troops are currently battling against odds.
A thorough report on the Kursk operation. There Armenia holding back a fairly large grouping of Russian troops. 50,000 of the occupiers' army personnel who, due to the Kursk operation, cannot be deployed to other Russian offensive directions on our territory.
Moscow's offensive stretches beyond Kursk. In Donetsk, Russian forces push forward, threatening the town of Kurakhove. Russian artillery relentlessly pounds President Zelensky's hometown. The strikes have also damaged a critical dam in Donetsk, raising fears of flooding that could devastate nearby villages. Russia continues to deploy advanced weaponry on the battlefield. The Orlan-30 drone, nicknamed Bird of Prey by Moscow, hovers above Ukrainian lines, guiding precision strikes with laser accuracy. Russia is also using its flamethrower system to hammer Ukrainian defenses. Questions loom about Trump's stance on US aid to Ukraine. Known for his criticism of Washington's ongoing support, his presidency could reshape the future of this brutal conflict. For now, Ukraine braces for the mounting assault as Russia's forces press forward. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Peter Kosnik is a professor of history and director of the Nuclear Studies Institute at American University, is now joining us live from Washington, D.C. Professor Kosnik, thank you very much for your time and good to see you. Do you foresee or predict an even tougher winter for Ukraine?
Yes, I see a very, very tough winter for Ukraine. Most recently, the Russians have not been hitting the energy infrastructure, but they could begin hitting that at any point. And we know that Ukraine's energy infrastructure is very, very weak already. So they could be seeing blackouts 20 hours a day of electricity and heat in the during the winter months. And it's a very cold winter in Ukraine. So I'm afraid the Ukrainians are in for a very hard time.
Professor Kosnik, Russia has expanded its offensive. We are reporting that Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's hometown was targeted. Russia seems more aggressive this time around. What's the message here?
The message is that Russia is uncertain what the new Trump presidency is going to bring, but there is going to be pressure to start the negotiations soon. So both sides are trying to strengthen, to fortify their positions as much as possible before those negotiations begin. So Russia wants to take the entirety of Donetsk. Pokrovsk is really in their line of sight right now, but before they can take Pokrovsk, they want to take as many of the surrounding villages as possible. So that's what they're doing, the Donbass. They're also trying to claw back as much territory as they possibly can in Kursk. So we see a two-front offensive by the Russians. They're moving rapidly in the east, and they're beginning to move rapidly in Kursk as well.
Professor Kosnik, this is a question that we've been asking so many people. What do you expect Trump will do when he enters office? Because one, he's spoken to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, who says the discussion was excellent. There were reports that he might have spoken to Vladimir Putin, but the Kremlin dismissed those reports, saying that they are cautious on speaking to Trump. What do you foresee happening in the next 2 months?
Well, Trump is a wild card. We don't know what he's going to do. He's spoken like a peacemaker when it comes to Ukraine, but you look at his initial appointments, and they are hardliners. They're far more hawkish than Trump is. So we've got Mike Waltz as National Security Advisor, and we've got Marco Rubio as Secretary of State. So we've got the first two positions announced, and it's likely that Rogers might become Secretary of Defense. So all of them are to the right, or more hawkish and militaristic than Trump is, and they've also been more outspoken in defense of Ukraine. So, but Trump is going to have the final say. And so the Russians, not knowing what to anticipate, nor the Ukrainians knowing what to anticipate, both sides are increasing their fighting to get a better negotiating position if the negotiations begin soon. So over the next 2 months, I just see more intensified fighting. The number of drones that each side is launching are really reaching record proportions right now. But the Russians have the Ukrainians outmanned, outgunned, outmaneuvered. So I don't see much prospect for Ukraine holding its current line. I think in 2 months, Russia will occupy more of Ukraine. There'll be more casualties, and the pressure for a negotiated settlement is going to intensify.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. I've been talking to Professor of History and Director of the Nuclear Studies Institute at American University, Professor Peter Kosnik. As always, thank you very much for talking to us today.